township along 40, if it's 50 feet from the right of way, that's gonna eliminate,
They're all grandfathered anyway. This is, once again.
not if they're not existing now, or,
Well, I mean, you want to encourage it on those major arteries, because you want to keep it off of the more rural roads that can't handle that truck traffic. So you do want to encourage it in those corridors, and find a way to make it fit in those corridors.
So,
But you don't want to,
I mean, do you even want a setback then? It sounds to me that it would make sense. Do you even want to have a minimum setback in the roadway for where you want this to be moving forward? You know, again, because the idea of this is how you hope the township will develop down the road. So by JD's right, if I understand what he's saying and where you guys believe this should go, this subsection 1, if where you hope these type of uses would go, and to avoid going on the back roads and, you know, staging and using that, if you want them to stay in that main area,
I mean, there's already a right
it's
of
gonna be
way.
very difficult to have anyone come in with that much of a setback, is my understanding what you're saying, where you want these to go. So with that in mind, is there a lower setback, or as you envision perfectly, or how you would see this developing down the road, is no setback more likely the type of use and how you'd want that to be developed moving forward for this type of use?
In that application, I wouldn't think you'd want a setback.
If you had no setback, a good example of that would Extreme Motorcycle would be a very good example of what will happen is if you don't have some kind of setback.
This is only talking about.
This isn't a structure, this is a parking lot.
This is only for
public
storage
safety, you
depot.
have to have some setback.
You'd have to be in the, off the right of way.
Yeah, right away.
This is only.
Talk about
So
Route
along
40, that
Route
right away
40.
66 feet.
Okay, so if that's
So
the
you're
case
all-
and you use extreme for
If you-
example,
let's-
you'd
let's
have to
use
wait.
your lot, for example.
Okay,
If where the fence is right now, I don't see where it hurts anything. You park right up that fence, it wouldn't hurt any, and that's probably on the right of way, or very close to it.
So we just go by the right of way.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying, that 66-foot right of way is Route 40.
well, that's what I was
And where that
saying.
fence is, if you park where that fence is, there's no issue.
That's
It's
what
off
I'm
the
saying.
road.
If with the right of way already in place,
Yeah.
you don't need a setback from the right of way.
As long as,
That's my
as long as
point.
the state doesn't determine they want to widen the road, because it's their right of way.
Right.
But if they do, that's gonna move the right of way too, not just the road.
Well, not only that, but these aren't permanent structures, so you just
Right,
move.
it's a parking lot and a stadium.
I think you
It's
need
not
some
a
distance
building.
for safety, but I'm agreeing with JD that you get to do something conservative left. You need to have something. You can't have trucks parked on the highway.
JD's saying use the right of way though. Just-
Yeah, the right of way is already set.
Use
by
the
the state.
existing,
If you use that premise for extreme, you'd have to wipe the building, they wouldn't have the building at all. Right? I mean,
yeah.
and we're not talking about a building or structure, we're talking about parking.
So with the
area.
language, if you change this to read, no part of a parking pad may be located within a public right of way, would that meet your setback
That
issue?
makes sense.
And if they did, and then they changed it, and they want to expand it, that's on the property owner's gonna have to rip that up at their expense, because they went on a right of way. So we'll change the language to no part of a parking pad may be located on a public right of way. On or within a public right of way. Does that work?
next item up for bid, JD?
What-
Wait a
what-
minute, on that note, where it says at least 1,000 feet from a protected structure, what's a protected structure? Because I looked in the definitions and we don't have one.
Yeah, we have it.
So
It should be a school, a church.
Protected structure is
is there more definitions in
any residential subdivision plan consisting of 5 or more houses, any hospital, school, cemetery, religious institution, public park, public playground, or other public building. I had a note, though, that one of the questions was, do we want to remove cemetery as a protected structure for setback purposes?
Mine goes from post office to retail.
You have an old one.
Yeah.
This is the one we just used.
It's not. Actually, in areas on this one.
February 1st. What did we have after that?
March 6th.
Grade 6.
Well, so far it's all been the same except.
Yeah, there's very few changes, except all we did was, the definitions were separated between oil and gas. I think they previously had the oil and gas section, and the rest of the definitions separate. they've now been incorporated, protection structure came in through the oil and gas, that's why you wouldn't see it
She
right
said it
now.
was March 6th.
March 6th, yes.
Our last meeting was in February, wasn't it?
Yeah, so the changes were.
Where- So where do we get the new copies?
They were posted online.
So we were supposed to print our own and bring it to me? So we were supposed to print it?
No, you could have got your copies.
Oh, okay. Didn't know that.
Satisfied there?
I guess the question is, do you want to change that setback from a protected structure for this type of use?
No, I was just asking what it was.
What a protected structure is?
Next.
And then also, the language says unless waived by the owner of the property adjacent to the delineated setback. That would not apply then. And you have,
Wait, what do you mean?
what's that?
It's setback from the
Were you, Katie, what did you say?
No, and the same thing, not a structure, just a parking lot.
I know. So it's saying so many feet to a neighbor, right?
No, it says unless waived by the owner of the property adjacent to the delineated setback.
So if there's so if it's 200 feet from an existing building and
200
the,
feet from existing building.
that property owner waives it,
Waive it.
Right.
Because you can be 100 feet away.
If you get the waiver from the neighbor.
Setback from the road.
No, I was talking about public right of way.
Well, that's not gonna apply now because,
That's
yeah.
different, that's two different
It's
things.
like, no, that's exactly what I was just saying. It doesn't apply to that.
Well, now that we eliminate the reference for a public right-of-way setback, yeah, there's no waiver needed. The only
Right.
waiver would be for 2 and 3 now, moving forward, since we're now eliminating.
That's
Oh,
my,
that's where you were.
no, that's my point exactly. And the 200 feet would be somebody else's building, not the
Correct.
property
Well,
owner.
yeah, if he wants to put it in, he's obviously okay with that, correct.
So shouldn't that be in there? Unless waived by the property owner?
Well, no, it would be implied that the property owner is waiving it if they're allowing it on their property within 100 feet of their building. It would be if there's another building on it, not on that property owner, still within less than 200 feet away from the proposed use, you would need a waiver from them to meet that setback requirement.
Okay, I'm just saying if they set it in the guidelines and that's the law, that you can't have it within 200 feet of the building, it doesn't say unless it's your own. You know what I'm saying? Like, shoot.
Okay.
Common sense would tell you, yeah, that's implied. You're exactly right, but there's a lot of non-common sense in it.
So how about unless waived by any affected
You know what I'm
owner?
saying?
How about that? Does that make?
It's,
So then that would catch all.
yes,
If you're-
it's implied,
if
but
you're
it's
the-
not clear.
So we're just saying any affected owners, that would include the applicant if they happen to be the property owner.
Just
No, I know, I'm saying.
better make it crystal clear than gray. And last, and definitely not least, there has been discussion and offerings or in the past that people have said that the ASA and the Farm Protection Act, that this
Oh, the ag security?
you know, yeah, will not, this will have no ill effect, and, you know, can't touch agricultural. Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, State Department of Agricultural Security Area Handbook says, hang on, because I just got on my phone and I don't have my glasses, so. Section 8. I can blow it up and read it. Yeah, cheers. Or, thank you. Yeah. Thank you. Well, I thought they were prescription. All right, so. Under Act, I'll just read the whole thing. So we don't leave it like that. Under Act 43, local officials are encouraged to support agriculture by not passing nuisance laws that would restrict normal farming operations.
Excuse me, JD,
Yeah.
you're down mumbling, we can't hear you.
Okay, I'm ready.
Thank you.
That we've had discussion, several meetings
I
this
got,
is
we
brought
got to
up.
that part. Just go ahead.
Okay, so What are the benefits of an ASA? Under Act 43, local officials are encouraged to support agriculture by not passing nuisance laws that would restrict normal farming operations. While benefiting from participation in ASA, a farm operator shall nonetheless engage only in normal acceptable farming practices. The act does not take away a local government's right to control nuisances when they bear directly on public health and safety. The act also protects farm operators by discouraging condemnation of agricultural land through eminent domain. Participants receive the advantage of having additional reviews of proposed condemnation, radioactive waste, low-level radioactive waste or hazardous waste sites may not be located on agricultural land, quotes laws. They're allowed to, eligible to voluntarily apply to sell agricultural compensation easement to Commonwealth, country, and or township. Number 9, are there any restrictions on land use within an ASA? There are no restrictions placed on land use as a result of being an ASA. A landowner retains the right to subdivide, sell, or change the use of his or her land regardless of his or her participation in ASA. However, landowners are not exempt from laws such as zoning ordinances, deed restrictions, or current state environmental laws.
Correct.
That's been stated numerous times in this building that that's not the case.
I'm not following. I mean, it's clear, this is not a nuisance ordinance. You're exempt from nuisance regulation. Yeah, if it endangers the health, safety, welfare of individuals, the township has a right to take action if it gets to that point. That's no different whether there's zoning or not zoning. Whether there's a nuisance ordinance, there doesn't have to be zoning to have nuisance regulation. The township has nuisance regulations in place now.
Now that first paragraph addressed nuisance. Number 9 does not. It says, however, landowners are not exempt from laws such as zoning ordinances, deed restrictions, or current state.
Yeah, I mean, the zoning,
Subdividing.
I guess I mean,
I think what he's,
That was the answer.
are you trying to say that, because it has been questioned before if how this affects farming?
I mean, agricultural production, farming is a permitted use throughout the township. So the zoning aspect of the township, from a farmer standpoint, is not being changed. If you're a farm, it'd be different if your area was, you were currently a farm and it was zoned strictly commercial or strictly industrial. At that time, when you wanted to change that use, you would then not be able to go back to agriculture if that was not an allowed or permitted use in that zoning district. That's not what this ordinance is moving forward with. You're not gonna be grandfathered in because it's permitted already. And moving forward, it's a permitted use. So as far as a nuisance standpoint, if you're farming, your farming activities, those are the smell, things of those aspects. The township, you're protected under that act. The township cannot pass those type of ordinances, nuisance ordinances, and then come after a farmer for that. That's not being changed. There's not a nuisance proposal as part of this, and even if there was, you are protected, farmers are protected under those acts. The zoning aspect of it, there could be implications, but in this instance, the township's not proposing to change any type of farming and to restrict that. It's permitted throughout the township. So I guess I'm still not sure.
I'm just going on what has been said time and time again when there's been questions asked how it's going to impact and affect the agricultural nature of this community. And it has been stated.
It doesn't.
I'm not saying by you.
Okay.
It has been stated by more than one person that it will not, that the nuisance laws and the zoning will not affect it, cannot affect it. It is exempt. That is not the case. That's not what that
I don't,
says.
it's exempt from the nuisance aspect of it. From the zoning standpoint, The proposed zoning ordinance as it is does not impact it.
What about the noise and stuff that's gonna go?
They
in
would
there?
be, no, farms are exempt from those.
They can't be, because it just said that
That's
they
not
have
what
to
that-
follow the zoning.
That's not what that says.
No.
Kathy, either
That's-
Kathy's
Zoning,
61
that's
is
different. The zoning, that's different. They are exempt from that.
It's not what it
That's
says
not
for
what that
Penn
just,
State.
that's not what I just read. That's what I'm telling you, that's why I brought it up.
No, that's not.
Because I talked to Penn State, and
The-
they said you have to follow the zoning. It doesn't.
But I'm
protect
saying,
you.
what is here is not impacting that. So if down the road, they go to change zoning, that's when you would come in with your issues or your arguments. But as it's proposed now, agricultural is a permitted use throughout. There's no additional restrictions on farming in this ordinance.
Right, but they are not exempt, farmers are not exempt from zoning. The zoning ordinance still applies to farmers.
Right.
In general.
Yeah,
Is-
in
is
general,
that-
but
okay,
as it's proposed, it's not
that-
changing.
That's
that.
his point. At the last meeting, the gentleman in the back brought up something about farming, and Kathy, you said farmers are exempt from zoning. I believe
No, I
that's
didn't
what.
say they were exempt from zoning.
Okay, you meant
Like-
just the,
Yeah, the ag protects them against nuisance and all that. Yes, if they want to build a new barn or a new house, yes, they're gonna have to follow the setbacks,
Well, I think
50
that's
feet or
what-
whatever. No, I mean, they'll still have to follow those, but
And
zoning and the ag security area protects the farm uses. Like he said, you want to haul manure down the road, your neighbor can't complain. You
Well, they can.
well, they can, but it won't get them in here. You want to mow hay at 10 o'clock at night, neighbors can't complain. It protects your farm operation, is what ag security does. It doesn't have anything to do with land use.
Michael,
Yes.
Oh, I don't agree with that. And an extreme example, which was brought up months ago, if you want to take, and not that anybody in this community would do this, but again, the more gray it is, the more susceptible it is to legal action. You need it crystal clear, okay? That's not what that says. It says it is not exempt from zoning or nuisance when it applies to public safety, health, safety, welfare.
Well,
I mean,
that's without zoning. That
Wait, I'll
doesn't-
give you a perfect example. I have severe hay fever, allergies. So Rick and I have a falling out. I don't like my neighbor. That's not the case. Him putting up hay causes me allergic reaction. That's my health and safety. I don't want him putting up his hay anymore. I'm allergic to horses. Get rid of your horses. You know what I mean? It's just, it's extreme, but it's possible. And what I'm saying is, you're opening the door.
Well,
I
this
mean,
is,
that doesn't,
to be honest with you, those rules are already in place by the MPC, the second class township code. They have the police powers to take action with or without zoning, with or without a specific nuisance, if it rises to that level that they believe that. Now, again, you can take it to court and you can fight that, but this does not all of a sudden, if you're doing something that affects the public health and safety, if someone's raising that concern or the township has brought there and they believe that, they can still take action against you. That's in the MPC and in the second class township
Right,
code, under the
that's
police
it.
power. So this does not change that at all. So there's nothing really from the zoning aspect that's gonna change that gray area of what is determined to be public safety or public health from that standpoint. That's not a new concept created by zoning. The only new concept from the zoning standpoint is where you're allowed to do certain uses, you're allowed to have certain uses. As they have it proposed right now, and again, that can change, it could go to the board could change it, they could change it today, they could change it next month, whatever it might be, but as it's currently situated, agriculture was allowed throughout the township still.
right.
So there's
Allowed.
no, yeah, so.
It's just not exempt from the rules and regulations of zoning.
But it's never, and again, but you read, there's other exemptions, there are other things that's not exempt from nuisance.
Right.
In extreme case, same thing as that, and that's already on the book. So this is not creating a new issue for farmers, I guess is my point, as it is. If they change some of the zoning, there could be issues down the road for farming, but that's not what's being proposed. Okay.
Before the zoning, the setbacks weren't they got a lot bigger with the zoning, am I correct? With what the zoning stuff come out, the zoning and stuff like that. And this, what JD was just talking about reminded me, because there's a few different farmers that I know, in the wintertime, they feed on the road. Does that mean they wouldn't be able to build a lean, anything to keep weather off of their, where they feed their animals, that would be at the edge of the setback? I mean, edge of the right of way off the road? I'm just asking that question, because if they're not exempt, from Kathy saying that they were exempt, and now you're telling me that some of the stuff isn't exempt, I'm asking that question just because that's something I've seen. And I know that I've seen quite a few farmers in the township, because you don't want to go in the field when it's mud. So would that change being able to build a structure right on the side of the road?
Like a running shed, you mean, or something?
No, just like this, how they put up 2 poles, they put a feed bunk in, they feed off the road. This zoning would stop that. You wouldn't be able to put that in because it would be right there.
Yeah,
I think.
I don't think that falls into a permanent use that would go through.
Would be there year round. You don't take it
I don't
down.
think you take it down. It'd be up
You know what I mean? You leave the feed bunk there, you just don't have to feed them in the summer like you do the winter because they're over a whole field. For somebody in here, I think Dave feeds it like that.
Michael, I understand what you're saying, that
Yeah.
this
Your
doesn't,
house.
I don't feed off the road.
Well, you know what I mean?
because we didn't
It's
have
right
the
there at the
zoning
edge of your
before.
driveway.
Now we put zoning in place, and it's
But
not exempt
they're
from the
putting
rules,
it-
regulations, and guidelines of the zoning.
But
And the effects of it.
Maybe technically, by that law, you weren't exempt from any of the laws on the books to start out with,
There was no setback before.
you know?
No, there are
There are
setbacks. There've been
setbacks, the
setbacks
state
for
has
years.
setbacks.
We've had setbacks in township. It's right in that,
Yes, all
right in
I'm
that
saying
subdivision
is that
ordinance.
you already weren't exempt from it.
They
Okay?
just, everybody just gets a
So you're
variance.
saying we just didn't enforce it,
What?
you're saying we just didn't enforce it?
Nobody knows.
Or they got a
That's
variance for it
right.
if they come and somebody
Nobody
complains.
knows it because.
The reason why, I brought it up, my point was, you had said before, and Kathy Gilmore had both said before, that it's not gonna affect.
But this just come up with
farming
me
or
just now with this
agriculture. There's no-
conversation.
I
I
don't
mean,
understand
no
that
impact.
totally.
It's not gonna affect.
Like it would be within their.
This is
Permitted
not
use.
going to affect you.
Permitted use.
But, well,
Inside their fence.
But
what I'm talking, because I didn't even think about this till we were talking about it now.
Red,
Okay, but you know what, guys?
That's
Yeah, no, I know,
why.
I understand what you're saying, I'm just trying to.
What
It's not about
if,
structure, you might.
what
put it top
if?
of-
No, people do it, it's not an if.
I'm
It's done now.
just saying that.
I don't think it applies to this,
But that,
right, it's still.
there is a facilitation in this.
But the guidelines say it's permitted.
For instance, that would come up. There is
So
a
not
way.
restrictions.
I disagree, because once it's in, it's, you
Yes,
can't go back and discuss it.
the guidelines say.
You have to go to the zoning hearing board and you gotta.
To try and answer, excuse me, to try and answer that,
Fellas,
Okay.
JD,
Yeah,
he's trying to give you an answer.
sorry, go ahead.
so again, just like the noise issues, the hours of operation, a farm, they're exempt from those aspects of it. They are, they actually.
Except if
they
it
are
applies to
exempt.
health, safety, and welfare.
Correct.
If somebody has a health condition and you're keeping
I
them
don't
from
know,
sleeping.
public at
You know,
large,
it's-
I think it's a public at large standard.
And I think that's something that should be dealt with on a case-by-case issue anyway. If that does come up with, then it's dealt with it.
That's my whole point, I'm trying to make it so it doesn't become case by case, so
We
there's
can't
not a
cover everything,
lawsuit.
we can't
You know what I
make
mean?
an exception, a rule, or a variance to everything that's gonna happen. Things happen, it's just the way it is.
Yeah, but if your board don't like the people that are there, then that person's stuck.
Pardon me?
If the board doesn't like the people that are doing it, then they're stuck.
Oh, dear.
The township and people and everybody else has ways of making their position known. They can take it to court and let the courts decide.
And that's such a waste of money for everybody.
It may be, and it may be a pain in the butt, but you still have to have a rule. You still have to have ordinance. You still have to have a governing rule. That's the way it is. Pardon me, Tammy? Okay.
But Tammy, I will check on that.
Say it loud.
This deliberation's been going on for 20 minutes. I mean, you know.
What's sort of important? It's agricultural.
It's all
community.
important, every bit of it's important.
Right. Why we're here.
I'm just saying, we can't cover everything all the time.
Well, my rule of thumb is do it right or don't do it.
We can do it, and we can always make the change.
It's a lot harder to change it. Do it right the first time instead of doing it the second.
They won the third.
Or seventh, whatever.
Besides that, once we get done with it, it goes to supervisor and it goes clear out to public hearing for 45 days. And anybody's got any other changes or anything they want to change, there's an opportunity again. We've done more than our due diligence here on the planning commission. That's why the judge, when he made his ruling, said we don't have to do public comment. Planning commission does not have to do public hearing, because it goes back to the board of supervisors to do that step. Next item,
You done, JD, or no?
I'm done.
Okay, page 1.
page 1.
Well, you didn't go page by page, therefore we gotta flip through it 4 or 5 times.
Yeah.
To promote, protect, and facilitate, not facilities. On number 1, A1, 103. In 104, it needs to say requirements to address public health. On page 3, there's it says a series
Page
of.
3, sorry.
Page 3, yeah. On 201C, a series of application process diagrams. Do we have those, or who's responsible for that, or do those need to be created also?
I have not seen,
Okay, I just
yeah,
wondered.
it's essentially like a flow chart.
Yeah, I just didn't know if there was one, or it, later on, if
I
somebody,
haven't created one. I
if
don't-
somebody comes along and said, can I see it, and suddenly we're going, nobody created it.
Yep.
On page 5, all other uses. On page 13, it mentions, let's see here. All other uses in that one is non-residential. Should that say all other uses non-residential or no?
Where are you at, Kathy?
On page
13
on
what?
page 5 and 13. On page 5, number 4, it says all other uses.
And
But all other uses, it says a non-residential use not expressly identified. So should it say all other uses non-residential? Because all other uses can means anything or would.
Yeah, it doesn't have to just be non-residential, is that weird?
Well, just my question is, does that only refer to all other uses, meaning not residential, not house, not? It's kind of confusing for somebody who doesn't know what they're reading or
Yeah.
is new at this.
I think 13A should just read any use, not expressly
Okay.
set.
Okay, on the chart on 5, number 23, and I can't find any reference, and I don't know if there ever was. Does anybody know why there's an asterisk beside forestry? It's been there since almost the beginning, but nobody ever really, I don't know why it's there.
Like said, as measured from the right of
But that goes for the other part, but
That's a different table.
Okay.
that's a different table. I thought so too, but that's the only,
Not that I'm aware of.
okay, I just,
Yeah, no.
because if somebody looks at it, they're gonna wonder where it went. On page 6, office veterinary, I would like to see the conditional made permitted, because if you're gonna have a farm and they're gonna have a vet, I think that might I think it's nice.
So the request is to make it permitted in all,
Yes, and across all three.
any comment?
I mean, because it's a farm.
That's a no-brainer.
If you have a vet who buys a farm and the farm's close,
And he wants to have his office.
on his farm, yeah.
It's a lot to do. That seems practical, logical, and
Okay, 54, studio. What does that mean? I'm sorry, on page 6, number 54, sorry. Yeah, I realized when you were looking. Page 6, number 54. Studio, like as in art or,
A business establishment used by an artist, photographer,
Okay.
or an artisan.
okay.
Radio or television broadcasting.
Yeah, that was,
Or the like.
okay, well, that was my next question. What if it's some other kind of studio?
Yeah.
So we wanna add, or similar, or how do we
Yeah.
wanna?
Yeah, something like that. Or radio or television broadcasting too. You can have television.
Woohoo, we joined the big leagues if that happened. Um, Adult-oriented establishments, on page 13.
Yep.
Licensed to serve and sell alcoholic beverages. I don't think we're allowed to do that in Donegal Township, are we?
Township.
Where are you at?
Where now?
Page 13.
Oh, sorry.
B.
Are we dry?
Are we dry or not? I guess is the question.
Well, with this, we wouldn't be.
Well, that's my question. If we're a dry township,
where are you at?
okay, it's, the establishment of an adult-oriented establishment should not be placed near an establishment which is licensed to serve or sell alcoholic beverages. But we don't have that here.
Except for the Legion, right? The Legion's the
We
only.
don't have it yet.
But you could someday.
So that means that we're really not dry? It just, a
Does it
speakeasy?
say it's wet, JD? Or Darren, does it say that?
No.
Because
Is that an actual definition?
you don't become wet by putting that in an ordinance.
Well,
That's,
let it dry.
that wasn't my
Why would you
question.